Tonight on SpeedWeek. For the 41st time, the U.S. Nationals have arrived at the crossroads of America. SpeedWeek is next. Hi, everyone. Happy Labor Day weekend. Welcome to SpeedWeek. I'm Bob Jenkins. Along with other news from the motorsports world, much of our show tonight will focus on the granddaddy of them all, the 41st NHRA U.S. Nationals, now underway at Indianapolis Raceway Park. With a total purse in excess of $2 million, the event draws almost 1,000 competitors in all classes from every corner of the nation. The goal is to make the final round on Monday. There's a lot on the line here, including tradition, dollars, vast media exposure, more dollars, and finally bragging rights. But for a select few, the U.S. Nationals means more. They are in point battles that will name Winston drag racing champions at the end of the 19-race season. Indy is event number 15. They must look past the quarter mile toward the year-long contest, but each knows the value and momentum a win here could mean.
Every time I think about that, it gives me chills. My whole life has been wrapped around drag racing, and the only thing I've ever wanted to be is to be Top Fuel World Champion. And we got our best shot right now. I just hope we don't let it slip by, and I'm sure it will change my life and put a smile on my face forever.
McLenathan is chasing defending Top Fuel champion Scott Kalita and sits the equivalent of only 2 rounds worth of points behind. These two have not met in a final round yet this year, and in Corey's world, Kalita is the only barrier at the moment.
If I had my way, final round Monday would be me and Scott Kalita in the final.
Not a chance. It's gonna be, you're gonna have your work cut out for you, boy.
I just would like to be there for it. I mean, this is my rookie season, and getting a chance to race at Indy. I mean, God, I wouldn't care who was in the other lane as long as I was in that, in the opposing one.
Dixon may have less than 100 passes in a Top Fuel dragster, but this rookie has 3 wins so far and probably the biggest trump card in Top Fuel. Don the Snake Prudhomme, who is not only coaching from the sidelines, but making the big decisions. Just ahead of Dixon in the points is Mike Dunn, who brings the momentum of his most recent Top Fuel win at Brainerd to IRP. He is 125 out of first place, but like Kalita, Corey Mack, and Dixon, he's looking for his first U.S. Nationals Top Fuel title. In Funny Car, the story is the hunter and the hunted. 340 points behind, but still in the hunt, is third-place Cruz Pedregon. His weapon? Consistency in making it into the final rounds, plus the title of defending U.S. Nationals champion. But points leader John Force is looking over his shoulder more closely at Al Hoffman. The duo is staged in a final 3 times this year, with Hoffman holding a 2-to-1 advantage. And the 47-year-old veteran must be watching Winston Cup races in his spare time.
At this stage of the game, I'm real comfortable being just a round or 2 behind John. I mean, even if it goes a few more races like that, I kind of feel it's kind of like driving a stock car. If we can draft him a little bit and pull out around him and get to pick up some momentum at the last couple of races and go by him, I mean, that'd be great.
Not since the Bob Glidden heydays in pro stock has anyone dominated at the U.S. Nationals like Warren Johnson. WJ will be going for his 4th consecutive title, but he is in a torrid seesaw struggle with the final member of the Joe Gibbs triumvirate, Jim Yates.
It'd be nice to race Warren in the finals if we would beat him, you know, because right now he's really a tough competitor. We're running neck and neck, and I think it would make a statement, you know, honestly, because we're running so close to him. I think it's going to come down to heads-up wins to determine who wins the championship. And I'm sure, you know, it'd be nice if Warren got beat first round, but I don't think that's going to happen. You know, I think it's going to come down to him and I running each other, and the best man's going to win, and hopefully this weekend it's going to be us.
Well, we've been rather fortunate there, that race being, you know, the Daytona 500, the Indy 500 of drag racing, and to win that 3 years in a row is a phenomenal feat, and we're extremely happy about doing it. But to continue a streak like that, you know, it's always a matter of odds. You go there with everybody goes there with the idea of winning. Unfortunately, there's only be one winner.
The pro qualifying sessions got underway under the lights Friday, and our Dave McClellan is at Raceway Park with the early round leaderboard. Dave?
Bob, a happy Labor Day weekend, and I would not want to be anywhere else than right here at Indianapolis Raceway Park and the 41st annual running of the U.S. Nationals. Action already underway, and if I can brag just a little bit, I have been to 36 U.S. Nationals, and never before have I seen a more exciting evening of primetime qualifying than it was under the cool evening skies and the starry Hoosier night as the first round of the pros took to the track last night. Jim Yates set the stage earlier on the show by saying that to beat Warren Johnson here would make a statement. Well, WJ must have been listening from the wings. He began his assault on his 4th consecutive U.S. Nationals title by setting IRP, ET, and speed records during his pass. 196.29 miles an hour at a 7:04 gives him an opening night lead over Yates. Giving the command performance in front of a packed house was 1993 Indy winner John Force. There must have been something in the Indiana air fueling Force's Castrol Firebird. He brought the house down with not only another track record, but the 5th fastest speed in funny car history, a 303.64 mile an hour run.
I felt like I was in Bernstein's dragster. She hiked the front up, smoke, trembled a little bit, and I thought, oh, she ain't gonna get away with it. And all of a sudden, Steve, she started making hay, and I was past the cones before I knew where I was at.
If you want good reviews and strong records at the box office, look no further than Kenny Bernstein. He was the first to run over 300 miles an hour. He still holds the record at over 314. And Friday night garnered another milestone with the NHRA's 400th pass over the 300 mile an hour mark. KB is happy to put back the show in the business.
Nighttime, I can't believe it, but they'll go a little quicker tonight, but it's a great beginning for Dale and the guys, and that's what we needed to do, was not get behind the 8 ball here so quick like we've been doing lately.
Along with the pressures of the points battles and the atmosphere of just competing here at the biggest drag race of them all, 8 funny car drivers are looking forward to the 14th annual Big Bud Shootout coming up on Sunday. That could be the start of a very fruitful payday. Force, Hoffman, Etchells, Pedregon, Spurlock, Bazemore, Okazaki, and Epler are in the race within a race for the winner's purse of $100,000. With a win in the Big Bud Shootout, the U.S. Nationals, and if a national ET record can be set and the bonus paid there, any one of these 8 gentlemen could exit with $275,000 to show for their efforts. It continues to be a monster of a weekend. Here's a look at some of the more recent firsts and exclusive records in U.S. Nationals history. Kenny Bernstein was the first to score the funny car double. In 1983, he beat Al Segrini to win the inaugural Big Bud Shootout, backing it up the next day with his maiden trip to Victory Lane. Big Daddy Don Garlits moved to the zenith of the Top Fuel win column in 1986. Driving his Swamp Rat dragster, Garlits beat Darrell Gwynn for the 2nd consecutive year to record Indy win number 8, a feat yet untouched in Top Fuel. The following year, Joe Amato took the Nitro spotlight as he won his first U.S. Nationals Top Fuel title in rapid style. Amato shattered the 280 mile an hour barrier with a pass at 282.13. In 1988, it was Bob Glidden's turn to ink his name as master of the IRP quarter mile. By defeating Warren Johnson, Glidden won his 9th Pro Stock title, becoming the winningest professional champion at the U.S. Nationals. Coming full circle, we'll end this piece with a bit of perfection. In the 1994 Labor Day chapter of his Final Strike Tour, Don Prudhomme made a just right qualifying pass. Unique in that it set no record, but is easy to remember. In fact, it was 300 miles an hour, exact and even. For SpeedWeek, I'm Dave McClellan.
A verdict in the lawsuit brought by sprint car driver Doug Wolfgang against Lakeside Speedway in Kansas and the World of Outlaws has been reached. Last Friday, a jury awarded Wolfgang $1.2 million as a result of injuries he suffered in an open practice accident in April of 1992. Both defendants are expected to appeal the decision. With only 2 races remaining in the IndyCar season, Eddie Cheever and A.J. Foyt have parted company. Cheever had been in the Copenhagen cockpit since replacing the injured Brian Herta in July of 1994. Brian Till will sub at Vancouver. Jim Hall Racing has announced that driver Gilles de Ferran will run next year with Honda Power. Hall will remain with the Reynard chassis, and the team will begin testing the new package following the final race at Laguna Seca next week. Prior to the Hungarian Grand Prix 3 weeks ago, defending world champion Michael Schumacher seemed to be cruising to another title before a faulty fuel pump sent him to the sidelines 3 laps from the finish. So entering the 11th round of the championship in Belgium, Schumacher had only an 11-point cushion over Damon Hill. Both were upstaged by the Ferrari team, for which Schumacher will drive in '96. Gerhard Berger celebrated his 36th birthday and his 11th career pole, besting teammate John Alesi. Berger smoked the tires, got squirrely, and could only watch as both Alesi and Johnny Herbert got around before turn 1. But at the end of the backstretch, Herbert outbraked the Frenchman and took the lead, his first time up front since he won at Silverstone. For a while, it seemed to be a race that no one wanted to win. After he had retaken the lead, Alesi dropped out and made the long walk back to the pits. While under pressure from David Coulthard on the right, Herbert spun while leading, and although he lost only 1 position, would continue to lose ground back to a final placing of 7. Not long after that, Coulthard at the head of the class developed gearbox problems and pulled off course. Taking advantage of all those retirements, plus a round of pit stops and a sudden rain shower, was Schumacher, moving up from his 16th starting position. With Hill on rain tires and Michael on slicks, what followed was some of the best racing we've seen all year. But it later incurred the wrath of the FIA, which for all practical purposes put Schumacher on a 4-race probation for blocking. Stewards finally called for the safety car to slow everyone down and allow them to change to wet weather footing. When it pulled off, Schumacher took off and was never seriously challenged the rest of the race. That was helped in part by a 10-second stop-and-go penalty assessed to Hill for breaching the speed limit on one of his stops. Recovering from that and a spin later, Hill passed Martin Brundle on the last lap to salvage the runner-up spot. There seemed to be no hard feelings between the 2 title contenders despite the close racing and what we've been told is a bit of animosity. Schumacher's 16th World Championship win gives him a 15-point advantage, but there are 6 more races to go. It's far from over. In Winston Cup news, Roush Racing has signed 1994 Rookie of the Year Jeff Burton to a multi-year contract beginning next season. Burton will join Mark Martin and Ted Musgrave in a 3-car operation. And following Darrell Waltrip's 4th-place finish at Bristol last Saturday, crew chief Pete Peterson took home $2,000 as the Western Auto Mechanic of the race. Coming up on Speed Week, Buster tells it like it is.
Well, my saying is if they don't slow down, they're going to get there before they leave.
Welcome back to Speed Week. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to sit down with one of the NHRA's most colorful and admired personalities. Now, he isn't a driver, owner, or sponsor, but he is a celebrity, and his finger is directly on the pulse of drag racing. It's Chief Starter Buster Couch, and for the last 31 years, he's signaled thousands and thousands of passes down the quarter mile. This year's 41st Annual U.S. Nationals will perhaps be the busiest and most bittersweet for Buster, as retirement from his position in front of the Christmas tree looms on the winter horizon. Buster, a lot of people can't understand why you enjoy being down there between 2 dragsters that produce almost 6,000 horsepower each. Why do you do it?
Well, I do it because I do enjoy it. You know, I love it. I just, you know, and it's, to other people, to you or whatever, you have been in motorsports a long time, you know, and the whole bit, but you hadn't been in the middle of it. I grew up with it. I started when the fuelers run 140, 150 mile an hour and different deals, and it just doesn't bother me. It's just, I'm used to it.
Buster, how did your association with the NHRA or drag racing begin?
Well, I started working at the old Newton County, as I said, the old Newton County drag strip down there. Sort of a all-around flunky, I guess, what they'd call a manager now, but I did a little bit of flagging, a little bit of the teching, what little we had back in, and even a little bit of announcing.
Really?
Yeah, so it evolved into, you know, one thing led to another. So they invited me to come to the Nationals in 1960, which was at Detroit. Is work on the start line. Back in, most of the employees of NHRA to run them races had their race cars. And they'd race when their time come in their class, they'd race, and other people would work and do the jobs, you know, to keep it going.
Buster, what's been the single greatest advancement that you've seen since you began this job?
Well, the single, it's hard to put out the single most, but safety features is what we have invented over the years, you know, the roll cages, the type structure we call, the wells, and, you know, all the safety equipment to keep all the racers safe. Because that used to be, early days, it bothered me real bad, you know, and I sort of felt responsible for what they're doing. When they catch on fire going down the track, their front motored cars without fire suits and burning up and, you know, and wrecking and stuff and all, it used to sort of get to me a lot, you know, because, well, maybe why didn't I shut him off? Or maybe he shouldn't have ran, or why did I let him go? Or, you know, if it happened and all. And the more safety features we got over the years, you know, and all, and we used to say years ago that NHRA's rule book, those safety rules, most of them, believe it or not, I hate to say it, was wrote in blood. Because when something had happened, we'd refine it, you know. So we've got it down pretty good. And I'd have to say the safety features to me is the most thing. But racers, with each one of them's got a different deal. But I think safety features.
After they turn on both lights, when do you know, or what goes through your mind as to when you actually give them the gun?
Well, it's just like top fuel. They don't need to sit there with them clutches and all very long when they've got both lights on. And as soon as they both stays, and I quick glance at them, make sure the drivers are looking at the tree instead of down in the car or something, then I flip the switch and let them go.
Buster has witnessed well over 3 decades of Indy performances, many of which have become tall tales. But one true story stands out. The year 1964. The driver, the legendary Big Daddy Don Garlitz.
He went to a couple of races and didn't qualify. He was having trouble before that. And it was just one of those deals that he made a vow that he wouldn't shave until he ran a certain time. You know, at that time, I can't remember what it was. He did something. So he came to Indy with a new piece, a new car, and he did, like I said, he kicked fannies and he won the race. So that was his deal, you know. So he turned around to the back end and come back up the racetrack and he shaves down on the hood of the tow car on the starting line with all the people coming over the fences and all.
Why have you decided to hang it up?
Well, age, and we're getting more and more national races, and we need some younger blood, some newer people in, you know, and I've had a few health problems the last several years, you know, in a whole bit, and I had open heart surgery several years ago, and it developed into making me a diabetic, and just, you know, old age and all, and NHRA seemed fit to give me another job and put somebody else out here. It's a demanding deal.
Well, you've had the best seat in the house for over 30 years now. When it's all over, when you've started your final race, what are you going to be thinking? Will you have any regrets?
Yes, sir. I'm already having them now. I mean, you know, looking at and talking to the racers, and I catch myself sitting up there running monitor on the radio and starting the cars, you know, second guessing everything, you know, looking at people do that. But it'll take me a long time to get over being a starter since I've been, that's all I've done.
Here's a look at our CarQuest racing calendar with events coming up. For all your auto parts needs, you'll find it at CarQuest. Welcome back to Speed Week. Here's how they'll line up for Sunday's Mountain Dew Southern 500 from Darlington Raceway in South Carolina. Up next is Speed Week's Dave the King Wilson with highlights of ESPN's Thursday Thunder season finale as we go short tracking.
Thanks, Bob. For the first time ever, the Thunder cameras visited the Bluegrass State. Johnny Parsons started on a pole for the 30-lap feature and took the early lead. But on lap 7, Mark Casella tried to pass JP with the 2 touched wheels in the backstretch, sending Casella into the wall. That's Jason McCord sliding into the infield. Parsons had to change a tire, and as a result, McCord's teammate, Brian Tyler, inherited the race lead. Jack Hewitt and Kenny Irwin were battling side by side for second when the two also made contact on the backstretch. This time, both drivers hit the wall, putting both of their cars on the hook. With those two out, Tyler easily cruised to his first USAC Sprint Car victory. For SpeedWeek, I'm Dave the King Wilson.
Well, I too had an opportunity to spend some time behind the wheel on the quarter mile at IRP. Now, normally I don't participate in celebrity races, but this year I had a mission: to avenge my devastating loss in last year's Oldsmobile Media Challenge.
Bob, you the intimidator now?
The black number 3 has some significance here today. I don't know what it is, but we'll find out. Yeah, I should have won last year. I think I had the best car, really.
It's like Bob Jenkins. Does he worry you at all?
Not really, because he sits up in that booth and he's not very active, so I'm sure I can just take off and leave.
I'm going to win.
You like Marlon? You see him?
Looks like my first opponent will be Don Hine from Channel 13 here in Indianapolis.
Sorry, I'm concentrating.
Don't you dare beat me. We're going to use driver third.
Reaction time did it.
How'd you like that, huh? Beautiful. Okay, that's one down. I got 2 more rounds to go. Yeah, it's Mittman again, but he hasn't proved to be too formidable opponent. Look at this. Look at this. 495. Can you believe it? Woo! How many more we got to go?
Semis, boss.
All right.
You got Ken Delabasti.
Okay. It wasn't anything. You talking? It was nothing. It was nothing.
Well, my reaction time has not been very good all day, so I'm due, I think. And if Jenkins and I are in the finals, I think this is the time.
I got it. It's mine. Huh? Scott, congratulations.
Bob, great race.
Yeah, it was.
Very nice.
Good job. You got it back, though, didn't you?
I lost.
One, so it'd be the Scarlet number.
We'll get him next year. Okay. Once again, I have to wait another 364 days to redeem myself. And that will do it for this special Labor Day weekend edition of the show. Next week, we'll be back in our regular Friday night time slot at 12:30 a.m. Eastern, 9:30 p.m. Pacific. And we leave you with a look at the NHRA Expo in downtown Indianapolis. So long, everyone.